Welcome back for another deep dive. Ready to explore some more of the natural world?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're going to be looking at evolutionary diversification.
Cool.
Basically how animals adapt and evolve in different environments.
Right.
We're focusing on two groups in particular, whales and crustaceans.
Okay.
You might think on the surface that they're totally different, but as we go along, you'll start to see these fascinating parallels in their journeys.
Love that.
Yeah, and we'll uncover some surprising facts along the way. So get this, whales are actually closely related to hippos.
That is a cool fact.
I know, right? And some crustaceans, like, pack a punch like a bullet.
It's amazing. What I love about evolution is that, it constantly challenges our assumptions.
Uh-huh.
And we tend to think of it as this slow, gradual process.
Right.
But it can be remarkably fast and lead to, like, these mind-boggling adaptations.
Yeah, let's unpack that idea of speed a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah.
First, I have to wrap my head around this whole whales and hippos thing.
Sure.
So whales are deep within the archaeodactyl family tree.
Right.
Which means that they're more closely related to hippos than hippos are to some other archaeodactyls, like pigs or camels.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean that whales descended, like, directly from hippos.
Uh-huh.
But it does mean that they share a more recent common ancestor.
Okay.
And, this unexpected family connection really shows how drastically evolution can, like, reshape creatures when they enter new environments.
Okay, so paint me a picture here. Whale ancestors, millions of years ago, start spending more and more time in the water.
Okay.
What happens?
Well, the aquatic environment is a game changer.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
The buoyancy of water frees them from the constraints of gravity,
Uh-huh.
which had a huge impact on their evolution.
So they traded gravity for buoyancy.
Exactly. And that allowed them to evolve to, like, a massive size.
Right.
That would be impossible on land.
Sure.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need those thick, heavy legs anymore.
Yeah.
So those transformed into flippers.
Right.
Their hind limbs disappeared completely.
Wow.
And even their nostrils migrated to the top of the head, becoming the blowhole,
Makes sense.
streamlining their bodies for life in the water.
Wow. It's like they were given a blank slate to just redesign their entire body plan.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And they developed those powerful tail flukes for propulsion.
Uh-huh.
And they had to adapt physiologically for deep diving and holding their breath for extended periods.
Right.
And even their diet changed from, herbivory to carnivory, focusing on fish, squid, krill.
So we've seen how whales lost their land legs to become masters of the ocean.
Right.
But it's not just whales. Buoyancy has shaped the whole underwater world in fascinating ways.
Yeah.
Like, I think about the incredible diversity of fish.
Mm-hmm.
Leafy sea dragons mimicking seaweed, anglerfish with their bioluminescent lures.
Right.
The strangely shaped seahorse. The shapes and sizes are just incredible.
It's true. The water support allows for, forms that would simply collapse or be too energy intensive
Yeah.
to maintain on land.
So, okay, speaking of game changers, you mentioned this idea of adaptive radiation.
Yes.
What exactly does that mean?
Think of it like this. Imagine an empty stage and suddenly a whole bunch of actors rush in,
Okay.
each trying to find their place in the spotlight. That's kind of what adaptive radiation is. It's the diversification of species from a common ancestor to fill various ecological niches.
Interesting.
It happens when a new environment opens up,
Uh-huh.
creating this giant evolutionary casting call for species to try out different roles.
So it's all about exploiting new opportunities.
Exactly. And we see this happening throughout history. For example, after the dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago,
Right.
mammals went through a period of rapid diversification.
Mhm.
It's their chance to take center stage and fill all those newly available ecological roles.
Wow. Talk about seizing the moment. Are there any other examples that show just how fast evolution can work? Something a bit more recent.
One of the most striking examples is the cichlid fish in Lake Victoria.
Okay.
And this lake is incredibly young, geologically speaking, only about 12,400 years old.
Wait, 12,400 years old? That's like a blink of an eye in evolutionary time.
I know, right? But here's the kicker. Lake Victoria is home to over 400 species of cichlid fish.
Wow.
all descended from just a few ancestors.
That's incredible. How is that even possible in such a short amount of time?
Well, scientists believe that the lake's history of drying and refilling cycles played a key role.
Okay.
These cycles would have created isolated populations of cichlids, each evolving independently.
Right.
And when the lake refilled, these now distinct species would come back together, unable to interbreed.
I'm curious about those drying and refilling cycles. Wouldn't that just wipe out entire populations?
And that's the fascinating part. The lake wouldn't completely dry up,
Right.
leaving these like small pockets of water where different groups could survive and evolve separately.
Oh, okay.
It's like the lake was a giant evolutionary pressure cooker, speeding up the process of speciation.
That makes sense.
And the calculations show that even taking drying and refilling cycles into account, there was enough time for this incredible diversity to occur.
Okay. My mind is officially blown.
Good.
Because I always thought that evolution took millions of years.
Right.
This cichlid fish example is proof that it can be way faster than we might imagine.
It certainly challenges our assumption.
Yeah, it really does.
Now, if we want to see how diverse evolution can get while still adhering to a common body plan, let's turn our attention to the crustaceans.
Okay, so the crabs, the lobsters, the shrimp.
All of them.
What makes their evolutionary journey so unique?
Well, crustaceans are fascinating because they showcase this incredible diversity while sticking to this basic blueprint.
Okay.
Think of them like a train with specialized cars for different functions. They have this segmented structure, and each segment can be modified in these amazing ways.
So it's like they have a basic model.
Yes.
But then evolution gets to play around with the features.
Precisely. And the results are spectacular.
Okay.
You have tiny copepods, giant spider crabs, mantis shrimp with claws that can smash shells, and pistol shrimp that create shock waves with their snaps.
Right.
And they all share that same basic body plan. But evolution has fine-tuned each species for its specific niche.
It's like nature's version of mix and match.
Totally.
With some truly impressive outcomes. But before we go any further, I think we need to define a couple things for our listeners.
Okay.
We've been throwing around terms like speciation and ecological niche, but haven't really explained what they mean.
You're right. It's easy to assume that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
So speciation is simply the process by which new species arise from existing ones.
Right.
It's like a family tree branching out, creating these new lineages.
And what about ecological niche? That one always sounds a bit technical.
It's actually a pretty simple idea. An ecological niche is basically the role an organism plays in its environment.
Okay.
What it eats, where it lives, how it interacts with other species.
Okay.
It's like an organism's job description in the ecosystem.
I like that. Okay, that makes sense. So with those definitions in mind, let's dive back into the incredible world of crustaceans and see just how diverse their job descriptions can get.
It's amazing how evolution has shaped crustaceans to fill so many different roles in the underwater world.
Right.
We've talked about, claws and smashing, but think about barnacles for a second.
Barnacles, those little critters that cling to rocks and boats.
Exactly.
I wouldn't exactly picture them as evolutionary marvels.
That's where you'd be surprised. Barnacles are actually crustaceans.
Really?
Believe it or not.
Oh.
They've just taken their adaptation to a whole new level. So imagine a shrimp-like creature settling down on its head, gluing itself to a surface, and then using its feathery legs to filter food from the water.
Wait, seriously, that's what's going on inside those little shells?
That's right. They've completely transformed their bodies.
Wow.
To suit a sedentary filter-feeding lifestyle.
Okay.
But if you look closely, you can still see those crustacean features. The segmented body, the jointed appendages. It's all still there, just modified for their unique way of life.
Okay, that is wild. It makes you wonder why it go through such a dramatic transformation.
Right.
Wouldn't natural selection favor less extreme adaptations?
Well, it all comes down to survival and reproduction.
Okay.
If a particular adaptation, even a seemingly drastic one, increases an organism's chances of passing on its genes,
Right.
then natural selection will favor it.
Makes sense.
In the case of barnacles, their adaptation allows them to exploit a food source that other organisms can't access.
Yeah.
They found their perfect niche.
So it's all about finding what works no matter how strange it might seem.
Exactly. And sometimes those adaptations lead to some pretty bizarre lifestyles.
Okay.
Take those barnacles that live on whales, for example.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about those. That seems like a pretty risky move, attaching yourself to a giant moving animal.
It definitely has its challenges,
Yeah.
but it also offers some advantages.
Okay.
The whale provides transportation to new feeding grounds,
Uh-huh.
and a steady stream of water flows past, delivering a constant supply of food.
It's a fascinating balance of risk and reward.
It is.
But some barnacles take this a step further, right? You mentioned parasitic barnacles earlier.
Right. Some species have evolved to live inside crabs as parasites.
Oh, wow.
One example is Saculina, which injects itself into a crab and then spreads throughout its body,
That's crazy.
controlling its behavior and eventually sterilizing it.
Wow, that's both fascinating and kind of creepy.
It is.
It's incredible how evolution can drive such dramatic changes, even leading to the loss of features we typically associate with a particular group.
Yeah. It all comes down to maximizing reproductive success.
Okay.
If a parasite can manipulate its host to ensure its own offspring survive, that strategy will be favored by natural selection,
Right.
even if it means losing seemingly essential features along the way.
So it's like evolution is constantly experimenting, trying out different combinations and seeing what works best in a given environment.
Precisely. And the results of those experiments can be truly remarkable.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about the amazing ways animals have adapted to different environments.
Right.
What stands out to you as the most surprising or thought-provoking insight so far?
That's a good question. I think what really struck me is how quickly evolution can happen under the right circumstances.
Yeah,
The example of those cichlid fish in Lake Victoria is just incredible.
I agree.
It challenges our whole notion of evolutionary timescales.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that evolution is not always this slow, gradual process.
Right.
It can be incredibly dynamic and responsive to environmental changes.
Absolutely.
Makes you wonder what other evolutionary surprises are out there waiting to be discovered.
For sure.
We've only scratched the surface of life on Earth.
Absolutely. Every time we explore a new environment,
Yeah.
whether it's the deep sea, a remote rainforest, or even our own backyards,
Yeah.
we have the potential to uncover new and exciting adaptations.
Right.
It's like the natural world is this endless source of wonder and inspiration.
Speaking of wonder,
Yeah.
I have to ask, what are some of the most unusual or unexpected adaptations you've encountered in your own research?
Well, one that always comes to mind is the pistol shrimp.
Okay.
These little guys have a claw that can snap shut so fast,
Uh-huh.
it creates a cavitation bubble.
Hold on. They can create bubbles with their claws.
They can.
What happens to the bubble?
Well, the bubble collapses with a loud pop,
Okay.
and the shock wave from that collapse can stun or even kill prey.
Wait, they can create shockwaves with their claws? It's like they have built-in sonic weapons?
They do.
How is that even possible?
It's all about speed.
Okay.
They actually store energy in a spring-like mechanism in their claw
Uh-huh.
and release it all at once,
Wow.
which allows them to move their claws faster than muscles alone could manage.
That's amazing. It's like nature's version of a high-tech weapon system.
It is. And it just goes to show that there are still so many mysteries out there,
Yeah.
so many incredible adaptations waiting to be discovered and understood.
And speaking of adaptations, we can't forget about the mantis shrimp, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those are some truly formidable creatures. They
Yeah.
have these powerful club-like appendages that they use to smash shells
Right.
and even glass.
I know.
The force of their punch is so strong it can create a flash of light and even boil the water around them.
It's crazy. We mentioned it earlier, but it's so wild it bears repeating.
Right.
It's like they have their own underwater light show going on every time they strike.
It's incredible. And the diversity within the mantis shrimp group is also amazing.
Yeah.
Some species have evolved to spear their prey instead of smashing it.
Wow.
And they've even developed complex visual systems that allow them to see a much wider range of colors than humans can.
It's like they're from another planet. But it just goes to show that evolution can lead to some truly mind-boggling outcomes.
It can.
All driven by the need to survive and thrive in different environments.
Exactly. And it's not just about the big flashy adaptations either.
Right.
Sometimes the most fascinating adaptations are the subtle ones.
Yeah.
The small changes that can make all the difference in a particular niche.
It's funny. I used to think evolution was all about dinosaurs and fossils.
Mm-hmm.
But now I see it happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Like even in my backyard with the different birds competing for food,
Right.
each species has its own beak shape and foraging strategy,
Mm-hmm.
perfectly adapted to its preferred food source.
That's a great observation. Evolution is happening all around us,
It is.
constantly shaping the diversity of life we see every day.
I'm thinking about the way different species of crustaceans have modified their legs for different purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Some have claws for grabbing, Some have paddles for swimming. Some have feathery appendages for filtering food.
Right.
It's like evolution has taken this basic toolkit and created an endless array of specialized tools.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it highlights the incredible versatility of the crustacean body plan.
Yeah.
They've managed to adapt to virtually every aquatic environment imaginable, from the deepest trenches of the ocean to freshwater lakes and streams.
It's truly remarkable, and it makes you appreciate just how much diversity there is in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on the big, charismatic animals.
Right.
But there's a whole world of fascinating creatures out there that often go unnoticed.
Absolutely. And each one of those creatures has its own unique story to tell.
Yeah.
Its own tale of survival and adaptation.
Right.
It's what makes studying evolution so rewarding. There's always something new to discover, something that challenges our assumptions and expands our understanding of life on Earth.
I couldn't agree more. Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground in this episode. From whales to crustaceans, from gravity-defying adaptations to the surprising speed of evolution.
We have.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Intrigued. What's on your mind?
We've seen how the aquatic environment has driven some truly incredible adaptations.
Right.
But what about other extreme environments?
Yeah.
What kind of evolutionary marvels might we find in the scorching deserts, the frigid poles, or even the microscopic world?
Oh, it really does make you think what's out there.
Yeah.
What bizarre and beautiful creatures are out there, shaped by the forces of evolution in those extreme environments.
I know. Just think about the incredible adaptations we see in deserts.
Yeah.
Animals that can survive for months without water plants, that thrive in scorching heat and sand. It's like a whole other planet right here on Earth.
And then you have the polar regions where life has to contend with, freezing temperatures, months of darkness, incredibly harsh conditions. And we see incredible survival strategies there. Thick fur coats, blubber layers, even specialized blood vessels to conserve heat.
It's like nature has this incredible toolbox,
Uh-huh.
and it pulls out just the right tools for each environment.
It does.
But, we don't even have to travel to the poles or the desert to find amazing adaptations. Think about the microscopic world.
Oh, yeah.
Bacteria that can live in boiling hot springs, tardigrades that can survive in the vacuum of space. I mean, the adaptations we find at that scale are just as astounding, if not more so.
It's true. Life finds a way to thrive in even the most unexpected places.
I know.
And it all comes back to this fundamental idea. Evolution is not about, achieving perfection. It's about finding solutions that work, however strange or unexpected they may be.
It's both humbling and inspiring, isn't it? To think about the sheer power of evolution to shape life in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that, we're still just scratching the surface of understanding the full scope of life on Earth.
Right.
There are so many mysteries left to uncover, so many incredible adaptations waiting to be discovered.
Well, listeners, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of evolutionary diversification.
It's been a journey.
I know. We journeyed from the depths of the ocean to the scorching deserts, marveling at the incredible ways life has adapted to different environments.
We did. And we saw how whales escaped gravity's grip.
Right.
How cichlid fish exploded into this kaleidoscope of species in Lake Victoria.
Yes.
And how crustaceans have modified their basic body plan to conquer virtually every aquatic niche imaginable.
We've also learned that evolution can be surprisingly fast.
Yes.
And that it's constantly experimenting, testing out new combinations, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So as you go about your day, keep your eyes open for the wonders of adaptation all around you.
I love that.
Whether it's a bird perfectly camouflaged in its surroundings, a flower attracting pollinators with its vibrant colors, or even the bacteria working tirelessly in your gut. Remember that each organism is a product of millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning.
That's a good point.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover the next mind-blowing adaptation.
Yeah.
The next evolutionary marvel that will leave us all in awe.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the wonders of the